welcome to the Best Places to Lead show. I am your host, Jerry McNamara, and I am grateful that you are here. We're on a mission to positively impact 5 million people through better business. Listen, I've never met anyone, I don't know about you, who showed up to work and said, I really want to suck at work today. Yet there's so many people that are ineffective and disengaged from their work, and it's not their fault. It's the leader's fault because we don't do a good enough job of creating that fertile environment for our people to thrive. And so that's why I'm inviting award-winning leaders, just like Nellie, onto the show. We can share our battle scars, how we got our teeth bashed in and still lived to talk about it. And so our goal is to create compelling companies. Compelling companies always outperform. And if we can do that as leaders, not only do we send our people home to be better moms and dads and brothers and sisters and parents and all of those things, but the world is a better place because there's more smiles for sure. So anyway, today I have Nellie Akalp of CorpNet. Nellie's grown 2 fast-growing businesses in decidedly the same space, which is a story that I love, and I want to hear more about that. Sold the first business to this little-known company, you might have heard of them, called Intuit. And second time, you started a similar business, same space, and it took you a little bit of time to crack the code, and I want to learn about that. But now listen, Nellie has been in all the places that you would want to like clip out the newspaper article or send the link to your parents or your spouse, right? Businesswoman of the Year, Inc. 500 multiple times. It's amazing. So Nellie, thank you so much for coming to visit with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jerry. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Tell me, how does a trained lawyer become a high growth CEO business owner?
There's not that much money in the legal industry for when I wanted to practice law, and the type of law that I was trained to go into practicing, it just wasn't really right timing for me. And at that time, my husband and I, had such high plans for ourselves when it came to building a life and a family that the entry level salary for a lawyer graduating back in 1998 wasn't gonna really support the lifestyle that we were envisioning for ourselves at that time.
I love it. It's why I always thought I was going to be a teacher. and then I realized that the world did not value learning the way that I valued learning. And I just thought, how do I do this? Well, I can teach in business and you can make a couple more dollars. So similar background where it's like, I really like this. However, if I want to have this type of lifestyle, that's not going to make it happen. So tell me about how you started your first company. So you started My Corporation Business Services in 1998. Take it from there.
So the first company really was an idea that was presented to my husband in his corporations class, and it was between incorporating online and Enron, and he decided to go with the incorporation idea. And it was really him to begin with. He put up a one-page website, really because of the fact that he really loved computers and he really loved helping others when it came to navigating the ins and outs of passing a course in law school. So what he would do is put up study guides on his, on a little website he had created. And then that turned into creating a one-page website in helping people start businesses online. And soon thereafter, that really got our first customer, which I still to this day remember, Tom G from Oregon. And then he came to me and he's like, hey, listen, I kind of don't like the idea of you doing family law. I can see you're not really excited about it. And what I suggest is you quit your law, your day job and come and work with me. And so at that time, he was transitioning through a time where he was graduating law school and about to take the bar. So I kind of took over the business, grew it, because for us, it's kind of this magic that happens. We come from 2 different schools of thought. He's more the idea person, the visionary. I'm more the person who's the executioner. I execute on his ideas, and I'm more sales, marketing, operations. So when we get together, there's just this magic that happens, and we're very positive people. We both live by this principle of always doing right, and good things will come to you. And so what happened was he went away and took some time off to take the bar, luckily passed it the first time. And during that time, I actually turned our 2-bedroom apartment into an office and started hiring people and started adding additional services. So fast forward to a couple of years after, we're operating out of a basement with multiple employees. And then fast forward to 2005, we were blessed with the opportunity of being approached by a publicly traded company, which you said on the show, Intuit. And it really happened under a guise of a partnership initially, but then soon the conversations turned from one of a partnership and a business development strategic alliance type of a deal into an acquisition. We were acquired, and my husband and I at that time had 3 really small children. Now we have 4. And we realized that, it had taken a turn for us, and we stepped out of it. We were under a non-compete until 2009. And then in 2009, we realized that we were really, really bored and frankly too young to take on an early retirement. So we decided.
How old were you at this point? How old were you at this point, Nellie?
Oh my goodness. So let's see, 2009. What was I? I believe I was 38.
38. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So, when I sold the company, I was probably about 31, 32. I don't even, I can't do the math on the show right now, but I was too young, and I found myself during my non-compete, I was literally sitting at friends' businesses and always helping them grow their business. And this passion for me of starting something from nothing has kind of been instilled in me since childhood. So it's a passion, and when you have a passion, it's kind of an addiction and you can't really stay away from it. So you want to channel that creativity into, coming up with business ideas that eventually are going to solve people's problems and solve pain points. So for us, 2009 came around, and to be honest with you, my husband really wasn't yet ready to get back into the world of, building something. And I really was. So we found the most simple name that there was, that was a 7-letter domain name on the internet. We purchased it, and CorpNet was born. And here we are today, 15 years after.
Amazing. So walk me through, because I think almost anyone that I know who has started a business, the aim is to have an exit, and a really positive exit. So you've had an exit and you're 31-ish, somewhere around there.
I'm not 31-ish today.
You look like you're 31-ish now. And so
I'm grateful to you, and I have no qualms with my age.
Yeah.
I'm almost 52. I'll be celebrating a birthday on September 1st. So yes.
I'm September 16th. I'll be 49. So I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. No, so walk me through, all right, what's the emotion of having started something 1998? You have this partnership that ends up becoming an exit. What are you thinking? What are you feeling at that moment where it's like, oh, I just sold my baby, but I also got a couple shekels in the bank for it?
I think it's really bittersweet. I actually went through depression and had to do a lot of therapy over it. And to this day, there's a part of me that always will, mycorporation.com will always be, and hold a special part in my heart, because that was our first kind of baby together, my husband and I. So it's like a baby. I mean, how do you separate from a baby? I mean, you separate, but it's hard. There's emotions that are involved. And then coupled with all of the attachment that you've had with the people that you've worked with for so long, and the different characteristics that come out upon an acquisition. It's in my opinion, it's really bittersweet.
Experienced the same thing in my first position. I was in senior leadership. We ended up breaking the company off and selling it off. And it really was my identity. I hadn't realized it, but it was very wrapped into how I was seen around the community, what people thought of me. And then suddenly I was no longer the soccer guy, right? And what I really had to come down to was a job doesn't define me. It's my values, my friendships, and my family that define me. And but I had to go through that same work because it's like you woke up one day, it's like, I've got nowhere to go. Like, what's going on here? That was a very strange experience for me too.
Yes. Yes. And I would say it kind of takes your sense of purpose away. And as humans, in order to function in a healthy relational way, we as humans need purpose every day of our life. And when you're doing something for so long, with the first company, it was 8 years, 9 years, and then all of a sudden it's kind of, taken away from you, your sense of purpose is kind of gone. I mean, initially, you get to travel, but how many shoes, how many handbags, how many places are you going to visit? It kind of gets boring after a while. So, yeah.
Do you, as you look back, do you regret selling the business?
Not at all. Because I'm a huge proponent of everything happens for a reason. And in no way I'm trying to condone my religious beliefs onto anybody, but I'm a very spiritual person, and I believe that, our higher power, whatever it is always guiding us, and he or she up there knows and is always 5 steps ahead of you. So, when things happen, they happen for a reason, and you just kind of have to surrender to the process, in my opinion. So no regrets here. However, everything I've done in my life has been a learning lesson, and it's kind of been a path to other things that have happened to me.
I'm with you. So 2009, we get that itch again. We find that purpose, and we start CorpNet. How'd it go? Because it went a little bit differently the second time around before you really found your footing.
Yeah, so I lead the team at CorpNet, and CorpNet, our mission at CorpNet is to help, support, educate, and really be a solution provider to entrepreneurs and business professionals and business together. And we do it by offering the most comprehensive, cost-effective services when it comes to entity formations, payroll tax registrations, compliance, and any aspect of the business startup and compliance process. And for us, initially, when you start a business, especially in the same industry that you've started before, you kind of have this mojo about yourself where, like, I've done it before, I can do it again. Yeah. And for me, the biggest lesson is that just because you've succeeded at one thing once, it's not going to happen the same way again the second time. And I truly believe that, my first business was just kind of like a test where God is like, here, I'm giving you a little taste test of, what it's like. And the second time around is like, okay, you got away easy with the first one. Now you got to prove to me your skin's really in the game. And I'll tell you, when we started CorpNet, and in the past 15 years, I would say the first 12 years, we truly had to pay to work at CorpNet, day and night. And when I say pay to work, both emotionally, physically, and financially, because what was then wasn't going to be the same as it was with CorpNet. And both my husband and I really had to muster up the humility in order to be able to be successful a second time around with our current company. And luckily we were, and we are, and CorpNet now is, on its way to being not an Inc. 5,000 company. It's now, participating in a runner-up to being an Inc. 500 company amongst many other businesses. And we are celebrating 15 years in business with over 200 employees. And I say that it really, really boils down to, having the stomach to, weather the ups and downs of business, but really, really being a provider out there where you're solving pain points for people. And ultimately, it comes down to passion, being passionate about what you do.
I think it's so important, entrepreneurs, business owners, we pour so much into the work that we do. And sometimes we forget that, the work has to pay us back, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually. And, as I say, a friend of mine, Amanda Holmes, whose father wrote The Ultimate Sales Machine, she just rewrote it this past fall, became a bestseller again. But she wrote the missing chapter that her father had written in an email. And it was, if we become financially wealthy and emotionally bankrupt, then we've lost the game.
Yes.
How did you had done well on your first company. How do you continue to find the resilience to push forward when, I don't know, maybe you don't necessarily have to, other than the pride, passion, all of those things, but what kept you moving forward in all of that, Nellie?
For me, it has to do with a combination of stuff. So one, I have 4 kids. I have to be a great example to my kids. And giving up is not something that I want to lead by example to my children. And number 2 is what truly drives me is being able to create a workforce where I see people's lives change. And that's really important to me. So, when we first started CorpNet, we were just a small company with just a few people. And as you see the company grow and you hire people to work and you see their lives change, that's where I get the majority of my drive from. And it really, really makes you want to push forward even more. And for us, the turning point really happened when the pandemic hit, and we were faced with either shutting down and letting go of 15 employees at that time, or coming up with services where we could pivot and offer additional services that are going to solve a pain point during the pandemic, and having the courage to, take the risk to do that. And we decided to take the latter, and luckily it paid off for us. And we were able to open up the job, force to hundreds of employees. And right now we've downsized a little bit because of our automation capabilities, but we were able to help a lot of people at that time. And that really motivates and drives me. And, as a human, that's what makes me want to strive harder and, dig deeper, because it is tiring. I'm not young anymore. I am pushing 52. And believe me, 50 comes with a lot of perks of back pains and joint pains and tons of different issues. So I'm not the same 35-year-old Nellie or 30-year-old Nellie that I used to be. But simply stated, I think for me, it's, seeing the people around me and how I'm able to pass it forward and making a change and difference in their lives.
I love when people think about things in intrinsic versus extrinsic motivations, right? And the most successful people I know who are enduring and resilient have intrinsic motivation. There is a deep want and desire to help, to move things forward. And, the world happens for me, not to me. And we keep finding those lessons of how we can contribute, because no one's going to stop me from doing this. I show up to calls every single day, and I have a background on that says I'm going to positively impact 5 million people. I better go do that. Right. And I think that's super important when that motivation comes from such an internal place. Gosh, you can run through walls when it comes from there. I think it's so fun.
Yeah, it is.
Well, walk me through COVID, right? So maybe about 12 years into the business, and it's working, but it hasn't exploded the way it did during COVID. Be a historian for me. What were the decisions that you made that really created the unlock for the company to be explosive in growth mode?
Okay, so pre-COVID, we had come to the conclusion that the B2C business model wasn't really going to work for us this second time around. So what we decided to do is pivot and focus our business model on B2B and going after businesses, specifically accountants, lawyers, consultants, financial advisors, anybody in an advisory role that represents a client. And so that we can not only, so that we can eliminate that single transaction model and really create relationships with these people that are in an advisory role so that they can start bringing a stream of revenue for us. And that model worked, and it was working for us. And how it worked was we created the CorpNet Partner Program, which is a program that allows you as an advisor to partner with us at no cost and offer our services either under your own name brand as a reseller or as a referral partner, where you refer us out to your clients, they use us, and then you get a referral fee. And this business model was working for us. And finally, the company was, we managed to turn the company around where we were seeing profitability. Nice. So then COVID happened, and I remember this day like it's yesterday. I was literally the last person in the office sitting down, and my director of operations comes to me and goes, "We got to leave. We got to shut down." And I was fully in denial. So we got our executive team together, and basically it boiled down to, okay, what are we going to do? This is scary. Businesses are going to shut down, and we're in the business of helping people start businesses. What are we doing? So initially, we really kind of went on this whole SBA angle where we started becoming a solutions provider to every small business out there, where we were assisting them with getting their EIDL loans and all of the applicable loans that was available to them as a small business owner. And that really, really was the first pivotal moment for us. Was there was a need, there was a pain point. Entrepreneurs and small business owners had no idea how to apply for this stuff. So we went out, we educated ourselves, and we became a third-party conduit between the SBA and the client. And that proved very lucrative for us. From that standpoint, it opened up another avenue whereby now businesses that were people that were getting laid off from their work or being furloughed, they were planning on going into business for themselves, or companies that were otherwise employing employees were now shutting down and going completely remote. So they had to now be able to process payroll in different states. So one of our partners came to us and said, "Hey, this is a really big pain point for us. Can you guys help us with this?" And then that's when our payroll tax registration service really took off. And that was when we saw a very big pivotal moment in the history of CorpNet, where we were inundated with orders and not enough people to service those orders. So
we have another problem. We didn't have enough business. Now we have way too much business.
Exactly. So, and you know what? That's a great problem to have. And
I would rather that problem all day long. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was pre and post COVID, and knock on wood, we're still here and we're still operating and just really touching a lot of people's lives and simplifying the business, filing process for not only entrepreneurs, but also accountants, tax professionals.
All the stuff people don't like to do.
Exactly. I mean, our tagline is take the stress out of business filings and compliance.
How do you know, right? So like you had a business model that was starting to work, and then you had to change the model even just a little bit about how you attracted clients, referral program, affiliate program, right? Just adjustment, tweak. Then you started to go into adjacent spaces. How did you know that you weren't chasing a shiny object, as we like to call it as entrepreneurs, versus this is a true business vertical? Or were you just in a space where you were like, let's try it and see what happens? How did you think about that?
So it's so funny that you asked that because, as an entrepreneur, you have to have the stomach for risk. And sometimes some ideas just don't take off. So like, I'll give you an example. When we came out as a pain point solution provider to this whole SBA EIDL loan preparation service, we realized that some of the services were not going to be lucrative for us to offer because it was a lot of labor intensive work. And why would we, how could we charge when the SBA isn't charging for it, And we pride ourselves on being super, super transparent with our clientele. So we quickly pivoted from that. But the state tax registration process was something that was already in demand. And clients were needing this service, and service providers, even in the, payroll processing sector, weren't able to provide that service. And coming from a heavy, automation and, we're in the business of creating software. So, for us, knowing all of the different 50 states rules and requirements and already having had that service as part of our suite of services, it just made sense for us to invest the resources to blow it out and amp it all out.
I love it. The company grows like crazy, which you've been through before. I was talking with one of my CEOs that I work with, and they missed their quarterly number. And he was lamenting the fact that he felt like he wasn't doing a good enough job of holding his people accountable. There were reasons why they missed, and he said, it's okay, we have to reassess the number. How do you think about managing performance, especially as, maybe the demand for people, hiring people, because you have so many files coming in, is greater than the people that you have, right? And so how do you balance making sure that people are contributing, they're hitting their metrics? Any tips for people who struggle with the accountability and just thinking about that?
So obviously for a smaller company, I think it has to do with whatever systems and processes that you can put together that is going to be financially worth your while without putting you in a financial deficit. But for a larger company like ours, it's really, really important to have systems and processes in place, because as a large company, I am no longer able to manage everyone. So I have to rely on my team, whereby they're reporting to me. And at this point in the game, my job is to just review reports and making sure that the reporting that is being given to me is optimized and is exactly what I need to be reviewing to analyze the data and making recommendations for it being, more optimized or not.
I always think key metrics are super important, right?
Yeah, key performance, and we look at KPIs all the time, and at the end of the game, at the end of the day, it really boils down to the KPIs, but we have to set those metrics up, so I rely greatly on my team, and every department has a VP, and then they have managers and team leads and department leads. So they're all, equipped with the knowledge of what the company's overall goals are and those expectations, and it kind of trickles down.
I love KPIs and how people approach them. I'm always amazed at how some companies don't have them. And I always say, like, you don't hop in your car and hope you have gas, right? You better know that you have gas. What are maybe the 2 or 3 favorite metrics that you look at inside your business? Because this is a question that I get all the time. Like, what metrics should I look at? Well, depends on your business, but how are you thinking about your metrics? What are 2 or 3 of your favorite ones?
So my favorite one, because we're a service-based industry and we're providing a service, the number one reporting that I look at daily is my sales numbers, because those metrics are key to me for being able to, run the organization and make sure that I'm able to make payroll every other week. So I would say that, in addition to that, the other one that I look at very, very closely is calls and our call center, which
Yep.
happens to be, at our corporate headquarters, but we have very, very, very aggressive metrics when it comes to all inbound and outbound calls from our headquarters.
Yep.
And the reason why is because, again, we're a service-based industry and the client is our ultimate boss. So if the client is happy, then there's more sales and more revenue. So for a service-based industry, I would say the three top metrics that you're always wanting to, be really close to is, number one is your revenues. Number two is revenue coming in, revenue going out, and
Yep.
also where that revenue is coming from,
On its source. Yeah. I ran a business up in Toronto, and we knew the levers in our business, right? And so that was a production company. And we knew that for every $1,000 of orders, there was 1 hour of production. So we could calculate, hey, we needed overtime. We didn't need overtime. But there's so many people that don't understand the levers and the mechanics of their business, key customer accounts, and how I actually drive business coming through, where I should be spending my time. And I just think that ultimately, as an entrepreneur, you have to understand the entrepreneur's equation, because business success is a math problem. I need X number of people to call. I need to convert at this rate. I need to sell at this price. I need to be at this margin and this operating budget. It's just a math problem, right? And so
it is. And I would add to that you want to apply the 80-20 rule when it comes to service-based companies such as ours, because 80% of our business comes from 20% of our clients that are our top accounts. Our goal is always to look at, on a monthly basis, like, who are those top accounts? What is the majority? Where is the majority of the revenue coming from? How can we get more of these accounts? And I would say it's also really important to make sure that there's a system in place of us continuously nurturing that accounts, cultivating those accounts, making sure they're taken care of. So, for us, we've always positioned ourselves as a company that believes in superior customer service, concierge-based customer service, and setting the bar on providing excellent customer service. So hence, those are the types of metrics that we are very close with, because as far as service levels and SLA requirements, we've got that dialed down.
I love it. It's no secret that I love frameworks, right? Repeatable, scalable, predictable results. I know you have kind of 3 pillars that you think about, and you were talking about customer success being one of them. Can you walk us through, because I always look at this and say, it's not an accident that Nellie's been able to do this more than once, right? You don't do it alone, right? There's team. I want to talk about your team here in a second, but I always find that there's clues, there's trails of like, oh, well, here are the things that I think about when doing this. And so you spoke to me in our pre-call about the 3 things that you think about that are really important in growing and scaling a business. Can you talk about them?
Yeah. So the 3 pillars that I have always believed in is, number 1, customer success, number 2, employee engagement, and number 3 is maintaining and generating a sustainable and healthy revenue model. Those are the 3 pillars that, with any business that I've ever been engaged in, that's a service-based business. Those are really the 3 things that you want to focus on: customer success, employee engagement, and maintaining and generating a healthy source when it comes to revenue generation and also your revenue model. So it's been the pill, it's always been the pillar, and it continues to be the pillar. And for us, it works.
Yeah, totally. Well, walk me through employee engagement, because I'm always amazed at all of these studies that show most people are disengaged in their business. Some of them are actively disengaged. They're actually rowing the other way on the boat. And so, what are some tips and tricks? Anything unique that you're doing at CorpNet or that you've learned along the way that's super critical on employee engagement?
Bottom line is, for us, our employees are the first they're the ones who are dealing with our clients. So at the end of the day, in order to have happy clients, you have to have happy employees. But nowadays, employees are not just looking for, a place to come into work and get paid. It's more about the culture, the community, and how they're being treated, work-life balance, health and emotional wellness. So, for example, in our company, we have a benefits package whereby, it's very aggressive, it's very attractive. We give unlimited PTO. We also give a work from home stipend. We also give a wellness stipend, health and wellness stipend. So I think what employees are really looking for is, in addition to that company's track record when it comes to how they're providing the services to their clients, I think it also boils down to how they're treating their employees. And if that employee is going to be in a community whereby they're constantly being fueled positively and being engaged with in a positive, nurturing way, rather than it being somewhere that's super micromanaging and their voice doesn't matter. So for us, we believe everyone has a voice at CorpNet, and we believe that no matter what level of job you hold or position you hold at CorpNet, I have an open door policy. And to this moment, people respond and they're surprised that I've taken the time to respond to them. So I think when you look at your employees as humans and not as numbers, it really, really, really makes them want to do 10 times more for you, because you're appealing to their emotions. And as humans, no matter who you are, you don't know what's going on in someone else's world. So taking that time to just saying hello, how's your day, and just taking interest in them, in my opinion, goes a long way.
I think you're so spot on. And I call it the 4 C's. If you're the leader, you better make sure that people have clarity on how they win, challenged by the work that they do, comfortable that they have the tools, time, and training to be successful, and cared about by you as a leader. And the last piece is the one that people get wrong, right? In just like genuinely caring, knowing that, you have 4 kids and I get to speak to one of them and it's amazing and this is super fun. I think when you get the 4 C's right, people don't leave you unless their values have changed or what their pursuits have changed. And that's great. We celebrate those people. One question that I had for you: what's the balance between not micromanaging, but also managing to KPIs? I think that's a place where I see a lot of maybe inexperienced leaders make a mistake, right? Nellie's not hitting her numbers. Next thing you know, I'm standing over your shoulder saying, Nellie, come on, go, 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 go. How do you approach that? Because I think it is a delicate balance. We do need the numbers because we're not running a nonprofit. However, that leads to a lack of engagement and Big Brother standing over my shoulder.
Mm-hmm. I think it boils down to setting expectations properly before. And when there's expectations that are clearly set and there's an agreement to those expectations, then there is no room for any sort of ambiguity. And I think oftentimes as leaders, as what I've seen is there is not a clear expectations set as what those expectations are, or they're ambiguous in those expectations that they set. And hence, the result is not what they're wanting, to see. And that's where you run into trouble. But when you have a clear communication style with your team, and you're clear as to your expectations, and I call it mirroring, where you say what you want and you get them to mirror you so that there's a clear understanding of what you're asking of them, and then there's an agreement. There is no room for mistakes, and everyone will perform better, and we'll see that those KPIs are being met. But at the same time, there's other things that come along the way, maybe seasonality, maybe, there's a number of things that can happen along the way, but the blow will be much easier, even during those times, if there's a clear set of expectations and an agreement to those expectations, and a clear roadmap to how you achieve those expectations.
Yes, I think you're right. I always come back to foundation of every great company is vision and values. What's the mission that we're on, and what's our agreement on the operating system of how we're going to treat each other and what our approach is? That's the value side of it. And so I know you guys have vision and values because we talked about it, and it is so much easier because it's not a personal attack. I'm addressing that there's deficiency in whatever the agreed upon value is, or objective, or vision. And that's an easier conversation than a personal attack of like, Nellie, I just don't like you, and this is going to be a problem. And so I think you're right. Expectations, super important. Can you have some fun with me and show me how you mirror back and forth? I think that would be really interesting, because you told me that, and I just thought there's so many leaders that don't know how to do stuff like this. How does it work?
So what I'm hearing you say, Jerry, is that you want to learn how to mirror me, correct? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I am, because I think it's a super valuable skill, and people don't feel heard inside businesses all the time.
So you think mirroring, what I'm hearing from you is that it's a super valuable skill, and you think it would be really valuable to businesses that are leading companies, correct?
Yes, for sure.
I just did mirroring with you.
I love it, because I think people want to feel heard and understood.
Yes.
And so when you miss the mark on seek first to understand, then to be understood, then people feel disillusioned, disengaged. Nellie doesn't really care. Whereas sometimes we do, sometimes we're just busy, right? I mean, I remember running fast growing companies. It's like, it's not that I don't care. It's like, I'm putting out 17 fires right now.
I would say the number one thing that I still to this day see, even in my own leadership team, where I would love them to even grow further in, is the art of listening. Because oftentimes we are so quick to want to create the answer that we want to create based on the narrative that we've already created in our head. That's right. We really miss important points from our opponent who's communicating those points to us. So I think, when you're running a company, or not, and just in a daily, basis, I think one of the things that will always benefit us as humans is the art of listening. And when I'm talking about that, what I'm really, really referring to is when somebody is talking, are you able to literally mimic everything they say and repeat it back to them? And that's in and of itself mirroring right there. But that's when you know somebody's listening, and oftentimes I feel like we miss so many important points, and we can be so much better at our job if we just did a little bit more listening than talking.
I remind myself of that very important fact every morning when I say my morning intentions. One of them is to live in wonder, not in judgment. And I am not always very good at it. Sometimes I jump to judgment.
We're all humans. We're all humans, and it's okay.
Absolutely. I think listening is a critical skill. And I love that Balraj and Jay and Rachel and AJ and Kim are all listening. And I hope they're all getting great feedback here firsthand. Nellie, you've been a terrific guest. I have maybe just one or two more questions as we wind this down. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat. I can ask them for you. You've talked a lot about your team. And if you were a CEO who was looking to scale their team, what would you advise that they should be thinking about as they're building their leadership team?
So this is a big one. You definitely want to create the team by putting in the key people first, which is something that we as a company, as I look back, we failed to do. And, we're seeing the effects of it today. But when you're trying to scale a company, it's really, really important for you to put in the leaders within those departments that are going to help you in scaling that company. Because, for example, let's say you're a service-based company and you want to build up your sales channel, you definitely want to bring up, you definitely want to employ that director of sales first, because that director of sales is going to know who the key people are that are going to help with him bringing those people in and growing the company. And I think it's really important. And, this is something that I would probably have done differently, and because as leaders, you have to be able to lean on your team and be able to lean on your executive team. And as long as you have those key people next to you that are loyal, honest, hardworking, then sky's the limit.
I think you're right. I mean, one of the things that I think about running a construction firm, 7 million to 30 million, 3.5 years, great run. And I still lay in bed awake at night thinking, if I had brought in our COO, Zach Mitchell, earlier, could I have gotten that business to $50 million? Yeah. And those are things that I think about. And so, the investment of people, really strong leaders, is the greatest investment that you can make in your business. Because sometimes, especially if you're like an early stage, we bring in people into the business who we can afford. And a lot of times it's like the business happens and it's like we look left and we look right and we think, holy smokes, this thing's working. Kim, can you come help me? Rachel, can you come help me? And it's like, they're great now, but they may not be great in the future of where you want to go take the company.
Exactly.
And, I've been a part of more than a single hard conversation with someone who was great at $1 million and is not what the company needs at $5 million. Figuring out how, someone who got the COO title at $1 million is not a COO. They're a great director of operations. And, we have to readjust those roles. And so hiring strong talent as early and as often as you can afford allows you to scale the business way faster and with way less stress and with way less tax on your personal life and your emotional, all of those pieces. I'm totally aligned with you. I talk about the high achievers trap. You're a high achiever, right? We get restless. We have to have purpose. We got to go do stuff. Sometimes we think we have to do all the doing, right? Because no one's going to do it better than us. How have you been able, as you've navigated your career path, to make sure that you're in your zone of genius? Because there's so many people that just never give up things. They're still doing payroll. Well, because I've always done payroll. You shouldn't do payroll, right? There should be someone who does payroll for you. How do you think about that as your role as the senior leader inside the organization? What is your unique ability? And how did you get there as quickly as possible?
That wasn't an easy one. And I'll be completely honest with you, because I've actually been coined as a very high functioning individual that is able to do multiple things at the same time. So for me, it was really hard to give up control. And control for me and giving that up comes with trust.
Yep.
And it comes from having that trust and getting that loyalty from the people around me. So there's not a...
How did you go about doing that, right? Because I think that's at the crux of everyone who's like, it's trust, it's loyalty. Like, how did you jump over that hurdle to say, like, all right, I can't do it anymore. We're at 200 people.
Yeah.
Please, right?
So it comes with time. I'm a huge proponent of not rushing into anything. And I've had to learn that the hard way. because I am someone who loves people and loves to associate with people. And oftentimes people want to be friends with you and they're very agenda driven, So for me, it really boils down to testing the waters, having a honeymoon period, relationship really marinate by testing the friendship or professional relationship by maybe letting them do something that's a little bit of a smaller task that I'm giving up, then seeing how they do. Okay, now increasing that role to a little bit more responsibility. So for me personally, for my husband and I should say, we try to keep that circle super tight.
Yeah.
We try to keep that circle super boundaried, because I think it's really important, especially in, a professional kind of, surrounding that, those boundaries are very clear and those expectations are really clear. But when you have those, you can often let go and you can let go of control. But all in all, for us, I don't have a lot of people in my inner circle that I can trust unconditionally, but there are a few, and it really comes with time.
Yeah.
It comes with a lot of time.
It's interesting. I hadn't thought about this for a long time until you actually just said it. But when we brought Zach Mitchell in to be COO, he didn't come in as COO. He came in as a consultant and worked for us for maybe about 90 or 120 days. Didn't have the pressure of being the CEO and having the title and making impact. We just built lots of relationships, and there was a level of trust of like, wow, this guy executes at such a high level, so that when we did flip that switch, the trust was already there, and the speed at which we were going was really fast. I hadn't remembered that we did that, but as you were talking and thinking about like testing people, that's really what we did. It was like, I think this guy can do it, but let's make sure he can actually execute.
Yeah, exactly. And it really does boil down to execution, and how people execute. So, but it's a good ride, and I'm excited to be on this journey, and I'm hoping that more and more people will come into my inner circle. And yeah, it's been nice having this conversation with you today.
I love it. It's been great. Here's my last question for you. What question didn't I ask that I should have asked that would really help other leaders?
I would say the question of what makes you tick when you get up every morning. And the answer to that for me is really looking at myself and making sure every morning I'm being a better version of who I was yesterday when I get up. And then at night, when I go to bed, have I done everything that I could to be a better version of myself before I go to bed? And constantly as a human, trying to learn, trying to educate myself, trying to become a better human, a better leader in anything that I set my heart and my mind to.
I love that. Purpose comes back to purpose. What are the levers inside my life that creates that fulfillment? Nellie, you have been an amazing guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Of course. I could sit here and talk to you for hours. How do people find more of you if they're interested in learning more about you, CorpNet? Where are the best places to send people?
Absolutely. So if you're looking to start a business, to expand your business, to keep your business in compliance, just check us out at www.corpnet.com. You can also email us to info@corpnet.com. We're all over social media on a variety of different platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I also have my own personal platform at Nellie Akalp on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So if you're interested in us assisting you with starting a business, expanding a business, setting up your employees on payroll, visit us at www.corpnet.com. You can also call us at 1-888-449-2638. And we have an amazing group and team of tenured experts that can consult with you. They can also do live chat with you and get you on your way to business stardom.
I love it. And your insights are amazing. I mean, all over Fox and NBC. I've seen lots and lots of clips and getting prepared for the show. The stuff that you're putting out is really great, Nellie. So thank you so much. One of the things that I'm not good at, which I think you're better than I am, is asking for help. And so I'm on this mission to positively impact 5 million people, and we don't do that alone. And so I have to get better at asking for help. So if you have enjoyed Nellie and the insights that we've provided here, I want you to share this episode. I want you to comment. I want you to send it to someone who needs to hear what Nellie shared today, because that's how we're going to go amplify the messages of leaders and how we can work together to make the world a better place. And that is the goal. So super fun. Now listen, next week, I have Tyler Horsley. He's the founder of Nuclear Networking. He's another Inc. 500 high growth company. They're doing marketing. Now, if he sounds familiar to you, he is. We had to cancel his show about 6 weeks ago because we had a tornado blow through Jacksonville and we lost power. And so I was really looking forward to speak with Tyler, but he'll be on the show next week and it'll be super fun. For everyone else, thank you for listening and thank you for attending. And Nellie, thank you for sharing your insights with all of us.
Thank you so much. Have an amazing day, everyone. Take care.